Hello, Mr. Millington here, and this is GCSE Music, Haydn's Clock Symphony, Learning Session 2. Haydn's Clock Symphony falls into the area of Study 1. That's the Western classical tradition from the year 1650 to 1910. The other areas of study are popular music, traditional music, and Western classical music since the year 1910. Before we begin, can you make sure you have the following resources: a pen or pencil, green pen, paper to write on, and your knowledge organiser. Pause the video and make sure you have these resources. And we'll begin with a short retrieval practice. Answer the following 5 questions on your paper. Question 1. What are the 4 movements in a symphony? Question 2. Haydn is known as the what of the symphony? Question 3. Haydn worked under what kind of employment system? Question 4. Are clarinets in A transposing instruments? And question 5. Are the strings at the top or bottom of the score? Answer those 5 questions now. Okay, get your green pen ready for the answers. Question 1. The 4 movements in a symphony are fast, slow, moderate and fast. Question 2. Haydn is known as the father of the symphony. Question 3. Haydn worked under the patronage system. Question 4. Clarinets in A are a transposing instrument, yes. And question 5, the strings are at the bottom of the score. Green pen those answers now. Today's learning objectives are to know the feature that gave the clock symphony its name, to know the 2 playing techniques used in the strings, and to know the instruments used in the clock symphony. Our success criteria is to describe the features, playing techniques and instruments used in the clock symphony. Can you copy the LOs down now? Pause the video. Okay, to begin with, I'd like to recap on the alto clef. The alto clef is used in the viola part in the score to Haydn's Clock Symphony. In alto clef, middle C is the middle line of the stave. Bit confusing because in treble clef that is the note B. But most of alto clef is actually lower, an octave lower than treble clef. So to play the same note in treble clef, the middle C is below the stave with 1 ledger line going through the note. That's the same note in treble clef. If we have 2 concert pitch instruments and one plays middle C in treble clef, the C below the stave with 1 ledger line, and then plays the C in alto clef on the middle line, it would sound exactly the same note. The reason instruments use different clefs is to avoid having to write notes that require lots of ledger lines. Notes like these down here. And as you can see, the more ledger lines, the more difficult it is to read those notes. Okay, write down the question and the answer on your paper. Why do we use different clefs? Pause the video while you answer. And the correct answer is to avoid having to read music with lots of ledger lines. Okay, write down the question and then the answer on your paper. What is a transposing instrument and what effect does this have on the score that is displayed? Pause the video while you answer. And the correct answer is the pitch of the written note sounds different than the pitch that sounds. The key signature is also different. Green pen that answer now, please. The reason this symphony is nicknamed the clock is the regular tick-tock ostinato beats sounding like the ticking of a clock. These regular quavers are often played piano. That's not the instrument piano, that's the dynamic piano. Staccato or pizzicato, adding to the ticking effect. Look at the bassoon, second violin and the cello and double bass parts in the first 5 bars. You can see the bassoons are marked staccato. The little dot above the note means play the note short. If we look more closely just at the first bar, you can see that the strings, the violin and the cellos and double basses are both marked Piz. Piz is short for pizzicato. We can also see the small letter P, which is the dynamic marking. P means piano, which means play softly. Okay, write down the question and then the answer on your paper. Which musical feature led to the name The Clock Symphony? Pause the video while you answer. And the answer is the regular tick-tock ostinato beats sounding like the ticking of a clock. In Haydn's Clock Symphony, Haydn used 2 playing techniques in the string parts. First of all, he has arco. Arco means playing with the bow. Arco has a smooth sound. The opposite of arco is pizzicato, or piz for short. This means you pluck the strings with your finger. Pizzicato has a very staccato, short sound. In the opening section of the piece, the melody is played arco on the first violins, while the accompaniment on the second violins and the cellos and double basses is played pizzicato. So we have the smooth legato sound of the first violins and the short staccato sound of the second violins and the cellos and double basses playing pizzicato. Okay, write down the question and then the answer on your paper. Describe the 2 playing techniques, arco and pizzicato. And the correct answer, arco is played with the bow and pizzicato is plucked with the fingers. The orchestra used in Haydn's time was a lot smaller than the orchestras you see today. There was no conductor. The solo violin player would lead the orchestra, would count them in and tell them when to start. Copy the table below and add the information for each instrument. For example, in the first column, the strings, we have the first violins and there's 9 of them. We have the second violins and there would be 8 of them. Then we would have the violas and the cellos, and the double basses, along with the number of those instruments. Then in the woodwind column, we have the flutes, then we would add the oboes, and so on. In the brass column, we have trumpets, and so on, and then there's one percussion instrument used in the Haydn Clock Symphony. Don't add anything to the boxes that are black. Pause the video while you copy and complete this table. And that's the end of this enhanced learning session. Thank you.